Okay, today I'm gonna start talking about Docker. I want to discuss it because I think Docker is an essential tool for modern programmer, and there are tons of different use cases for it. And in general scenario, Docker will make your life easier, and you it'll help you to solve all the problems with configurations. When you try to configure something, some dependency, and it works fine for other people, and for you it doesn't work at all. So with Docker you don't have such problems. And here's a simple scenario that I want to start with. Let's say we have two people. We have Bob on the left and Alice on the right here. And Bob is a Python programmer. On the other hand, Alice doesn't know Python, she knows Ruby. And being a Python programmer, Bob created this program MainPy, and this is basically a source code that ended up being very useful, and now everyone wants to use it, and Alice as well. So Bob just sends source code to Alice, and Alice might have a problem here because she doesn't know anything about the environment and won't be able to run this program. She doesn't have an interpreter, she doesn't know what operation system, what Python version, like 3.6 or some other version, what overall dependencies of this program. Maybe there is some database involved. So there is no information about that. She only has a source code, and this is a common problem. And if she really wants to run it, then she needs to figure out all these questions. And this is basically what Docker tries to solve. With Docker, Alice won't have any of these problems. Let's name this approach No Docker. And now let's take a look at how Docker will solve it. With Docker, after writing a program, Bob will also write a specification file that will list all the dependencies, all the requirements for the system for his script to run in. And in Docker world, this specification is called a Docker file. And Docker file is a basic plain text file which specify like maybe Bob used Ubuntu 16.04 and a Python version was maybe 3.6, and maybe there were several libraries like NumPy with specific version. I don't know the version, let's say 7.1, and maybe there was a MySQL. So this is Bob's job to specify this file, and he needs to do this step correctly, and then he'll be able to test it before sending anything else to Alice or to anyone else. So having this Docker file, he uses a Docker program installed on his machine to process this plain text file, and as a result, Docker returns something called an image, Docker image. And Docker image is a snapshot of a system, and it's not actually a plain text file. It's actually a full system with all the requirements, all the packages installed, and program itself that Bob written. And now we just need a place for Alice to run this image in. And actually, before that, a common practice would be to host this image somewhere on the internet and then share a link with other people. Usually it's hosted somewhere on the internet, right? Host somewhere. There are a lot of sites and different approaches you might use to host it. Let's say Bob hosted it somewhere and sends URL link to it, and Alice. What Alice now needs to do? Well, first of all, she needs to have a Docker installed on her system. And having a Docker installed, the next thing will be to pull the image. From URL, and the last thing before actually using the app will be to run container. And by container, I mean to take this image that has a snapshot of a system and actually initialize this system and run it. So by running the container, she has a full system on her local machine that's similar, that actually perfectly equal to a system that Bob described in his Docker file. And if Bob tested a Docker image before hosting it somewhere, this system that Alice ended up having will be equal to a system that Bob had before. So it's almost guaranteed that Alice will have the same result running this program as Bob did previously. And why people love Docker? Because Alice doesn't even need to know what programming language this program was written in. It might be Python, it might be something else. Doesn't matter, because Alice is using this program as a black box, doesn't know anything about the content, yet is able to use it. And on this principle, you might find a lot of use cases built on this principle. For instance, cloud providers have. You might say that cloud providers has two options: to run each individual technology as a separate strategies, or they might acquire Docker images from customers and run them in similar fashion without actually caring about dependencies. So this way we delegate configuration steps to whatever knows this configuration the best, the one who actually written the program. He provides a specification and an image, a working snapshot of a system to consumer, in this case to Alice. And this is why I and everyone who uses Docker loves it, because of this simplicity and flexibility. You might have really complex applications packed in image, and you just run it in a single command, and this is awesome. So here that's all for this simple use case, and next we'll follow with understanding trying to understand how Dockerfile works, how to write your own Docker files, how to then build it to an image, and how to use already built images to run a container and to have dozens different applications running on your system in abstract way. When you don't have any knowledge about an application itself, yet you can use it. So that's all. That's it for today.